And welcome to our second of 3 daily space weather videos here at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. I'm your host, Dan, aka Smash-A-Mash, and this is about fields and features of the closest star and the closest planet. Leave us a comment if you're viewing the video from a different timeline, plane of existence, dimensional, portal, galaxy, spaceship, planet, star system, etc. This is the magnetohydrodynamic pressure around planet Earth over the past 4 hours. The scale you're looking at is nanopascal. It's modeled by the Space Weather Modeling Framework. Again, it's 4 hours of data. We are seeing a continued high-speed solar wind stream here from a coronal hole, and we're expecting some more. We'll get to that momentarily. Before we do so, we'll look at ground magnetic perturbations at all. So this was Earth's magnetic moment from space. Let's look at Earth's magnetic moment from the ground level. Geospace delta B is a reference to changes to Earth's B field. And we do see some slight magnetic perturbations here. Again, we are seeing a continued high-speed coronal hole wind stream. We'll get to the data on that momentarily. First, let's look at the heliospheric current sheet just after we look at the GOES magnetometers. So there's the GOES magnetometer readings over the past 3 days. Those arc-jet moments are when the GOES satellites must turn on their thrusters, which creates plasma, which could affect the magnetic readings. If you think NASA's hiding data, it's right there in front of your face. They're telling you they may have anomalies in data because of turning on their thrusters and creating plasma and so on, which could affect the magnetometers. Let's move on. Here's the heliospheric current sheet. We are expecting a South Pole current sheet to arrive by tomorrow's space weather video. So Earth is currently in a North Pole current sheet shown here in green, South Pole current sheet coming. A little faster than you may have expected. We forecasted it a solid several days ago. Here's the line of sight view, and you'll see this blue line swinging around. It all has to do with some active region rising in the southeast of the closest star. Next, the line of sight coronal hole plot, and you can see a bunch of North Pole-oriented coronal holes here, right in the earthly facing zone. We'll show you some close-ups of those in a minute. We've got some South Pole-oriented coronal holes rotating in on the east, to the north of that active region that we actually forecasted. By the way, we don't look at stereo A to forecast active regions. We use magnetometer data. It helps us to tie the physics together. So here's great visual analysis in 193 angstroms from the SDO of those coronal hole systems. What evil lurks in the depths of coronal holes? Not much, but streams of protons emanate from them. There's a great close-up of that, along with an earthly scale. Those are kind of large, those coronal holes. And let's continue on and move on to sunspots. So before we do that, I just want to check the life of the stream here. Everything looks A-OK. This video was originally streamed live to Twitch at twitch.tv/Smash-A-Mash. So we've got two named groups, 2954 and 2955. They've been mostly stable here, I think, over the past 24 hours. Certainly looks like it. So pretty weak activity here overall on the closest star. At least comparatively fairly weak activity. So here's a close-up of sunspot 2954 and 2955. We've used composite wavelengths here. It's part of the ultraviolet light spectrum, 171 and 304 angstroms. They represent ionized iron and helium. Great view there. Looks like possibly another sunspot forming here to the northeast of sunspot 2955. You can see a little bit of activity right there under my cursor. So no major flares over the past 24 hours. Pretty calm. And those are only alpha class. Those are barely beta class sunspots. I think 2955 is, frankly, it looks like it's alpha class. So make sure you watch our bonus features segment video about space weather. It'll do an in-depth analysis of the classification of those sunspots. So there's the X-ray flux over the past 3 days. There's the proton flux over the past 3 days. We've seen a subsiding of a weak protonic signal. Looking at the real-time solar wind, we've seen a recent uptick in the solar wind velocity here. Current readings are about 450 kilometers per second for the speed, Solar wind density quite a bit higher than yesterday. Yesterday we reported only 2 protons per cubic centimeter. Now we're up to about 5.5 protons per cubic centimeter. And in the past 7 hours, we've seen an increase in the plasma temperature, the velocity, and some shifts in the phi angle. KP index is a measurement of global geomagnetism. The planetary K index currently at 3. And by the way, if we see the BZ move into solid signal negative territory, we could see geomagnetic unrest as a result of that as a high-speed coronal hole wind stream continues. Kind of like this. Yeah, solar protons blasting through the solar system and arriving here at the Earth geospace. Next, we'll show you a forecast. Here's a 1-week forecast for heavenly bodies. Here's where things will be on March 4th. And here's a star chart. This is what's going on above my head in Lehigh Valley. If you want to make your own, head to in-the-sky.org. We've put in deep sky objects. The blue line there is a galactic plane. We've shaded the galaxy as well. And the yellow line is the ecliptic. Give me control of my of my browser back. If you're up before dawn, you may see the moon and Venus and Mars and Mercury and Saturn all rising ahead of the sun. It's a planetary pileup. Next, let's look at coronal mass ejections to close out this space weather video. Let's see what's going on in a couple of coronagraphs. Stereo A on the left and the LASCO C3 on the right. LASCO C3 is located here at Lagrange point 1. Stereo A is located here at Lagrange point 5. And we've got Mercury showing up in the view. Also a huge prominence on the non-Earth facing side of the sun. So from Stereo A's perspective, Earth would be off like this. From the LASCO C3's perspective, Earth would be behind you. Anyway, thanks for tuning in to our Fields and Features segment of our daily space weather video. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. And I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off from the Smash News Network, least busted name in news.